So we pulled questions that were missions-oriented. Some questions may not have been really missions-oriented, and so if you don't hear that question, that's why I'm trying to keep this. We're going to release this in podcast form, and this is just kind of a question and answer with Brother Jerry Richardson, longtime missionary to Madagascar. Brother Richardson, how many years did you serve there in Madagascar?
I was actually in Madagascar for 22 years.
All right, he is saying... this switch right here. I set you up right there, didn't I? There we go.
We were appointed to Madagascar for 22 years. I was the regional director for Africa for an additional 20 years.
All right. And then how long have you been on mission work in Chile?
We've been in Chile for, May will be 21 years as missionaries, and then MK before that.
All right. So we just want to kind of do some questions here, the questions that came in. I'm going to start with an easy one that came from a young man, and he wanted to know, Brother Well, what is your favorite animal in Chile?
Probably the guanaco.
Uh-oh.
We have 4 different variants of New World camels. You're probably familiar with llamas. And then we have llamas, vicuñas, alpacas, and guanacos. They're all a little different. Some are the llama's the larger one of them, and down in the Patagonia area is where we have the guanacos, and they run free wild down in that area.
Wow. Brother Richardson, somebody asked a very intriguing question about what book of the Bible would you say best prepares somebody for mission work?
That's difficult because they're all important.
Sure.
I think anyone who's going to do mission work needs to be an able teacher.
Okay.
Because it's one thing to convert somebody.
Yeah.
It's another thing to establish them.
Yeah.
And much of the missionaries' work needs to be centered on establishing people so that they can become leaders and reach out to win other people. I could tell you which is my favorite book.
Sure.
Which is the book of 1 Corinthians.
All right.
Because I have found that almost any problem that we face in the church world today, it is dealt with in 1 Corinthians. So I like that very, very much. But you better know the Acts of the Apostles for sure.
That's right.
It's really hard to separate any book and say that it's more important because you need them all.
That's very good. Very good answer. Brother, well, when you go to a new area, and I know this really varies from field to field, but when you go to a new area, how do you approach people about Jesus and salvation?
It depends a lot, as you say, on what area you go to. And before we approach going to a new area in Chile, obviously we seek the direction of the Lord, and a lot of prayer, and a lot of preparation. And one of the things we ask God is, lead us to hungry hearts and souls.
Yeah.
Because we can't witness to everybody.
Right.
But I believe God gives us key people in certain areas that we are able to come in contact with and witness to them. And when we go, a lot of the times as missionaries, we will go, and a national minister, pastor, will go with us, and we'll go to encourage them, help them, and get them established, and then continue going back and visiting with them and helping them in that area.
Brother Richardson, what would you say are the day-to-day dangers of being a missionary when you're overseas?
Again, that depends a whole lot on where you're working.
Sure.
I can sit here and talk about experiences of being put in jail. I can talk about being stoned. I can talk about those experiences, and those are not everyday experiences, but they're not easy ones.
Right.
But I think probably the thing that bothers most people is leaving the homeland. We have our ties, we have our families, we have the people that we love, and the idea of walking away from them and not being able to see them. For when we first went, you didn't come back to the States for visits between furloughs, so you could be 4 or 5 years between seeing your family again, and those were the difficult times. Loneliness can be a problem because you're a foreigner, you're different than people you're working with, and there's never any close fellowship. Those are the things that I think you need to prepare for the most.
Yeah.
And most of the time, you can do that if you get close enough to the Lord.
Yes, sir.
And that's where the victory is.
Yes, sir.
If you're close enough to Him, then that void is taken care of. Isn't that true right here where we live, though?
Yes, sir.
When you're close enough to the Lord, yes, we have separation. Yes, we have problems. Yes, there are difficulties. But if you're close enough to the Lord, you can overcome any difficulty. There's the complications of language study, learning to communicate in a different tongue, trying your best to learn the culture and the customs of the people, because you don't want to be offensive.
Right.
But all of those are things that you just kind of fit into. But I think the most difficult is when you have to say goodbye to your close friends.
Yeah. Wow. Brother Well, if you could think back to maybe a hard moment in mission work and then kind of describe what helped you get through it. This is kind of a loaded question, so I'm going to give you a chance to think on this one here. I think they're talking about, you like he's talking about those tough times when you're overseas and, like around here, we can call a neighboring pastor. We can, but in mission work, sometimes you can feel like you're by yourself. So can you talk about a hard time that in that mission work that you've done and really what helped you get through that?
Everywhere you are, you have different battles, different challenges, different situations. And I believe one of the key things is whether you're serving God here in ministry, here in the States, in ministry, wherever you are around the world, is to realize why you are where you are, how you got to where you are, and the reason that you are there. And when you realize that you're not there because you desired to go there, you're not there because it's something that you yourself want to accomplish, it's not something on your bucket list, but you're there because you're called of God.
Yeah.
And the call of God will sustain you when nothing else will sustain you.
Yes, sir.
And it is vital to have it in our lives. And another thing is that I have found out and tried to apply in my life, perhaps not been as successful as I should have been, could have been, is to not take things personal. You just can't take things personal. And then, as Brother Richardson said, you just have to seek the Lord and ask God to give you wisdom and direction to handle each situation. And every day there's difficulties, there's different situations you have to face, but God is faithful and helps us through everything.
Yes, sir. Brother Richardson, you mentioned this morning in your message, that was one of the first memories that I have of, I think you all, or maybe it was your son, Brother Chris Richardson, coming through, talking about the people with their communication with the dead. There's local customs, and then you've got the spiritual things, and I don't think that would classify as a custom, so I don't want to go that direction, but they're asking tonight, do you observe local customs for respect? And if so, what would that be, and how would you do that?
As long as it doesn't contradict the Word of God,
yes, sir.
Customs can be very much allowed, and we should respect them.
Yeah.
We're in their country.
Yeah.
We should not try to make them to become Americans. We should try to blend in with the country that we're working in. But when it contradicts the Word of God, then we have to draw the line.
Yeah.
That experience of going to the tomb and going inside, and that just as an observer, we have done that.
Sure.
But invariably, they will invite us to come and be a part of the feast that they're going to prepare for all the people to come and honor the dead. Mm. Well, now, I have nothing against eating, as you can well tell. But I had to say no.
I understand. Yes, sir.
To that particular request or invitation, simply because I knew what it represented. It represented that I was going to come and participate with them in the honoring of the dead, We honor the dead, we just don't worship the dead.
Right.
That's right.
And so we have to draw the line where that's at. And in any culture, any country, that you're going to find some things that you have to draw the line. Just as we do right here, we draw the line on not participating with the affairs of the world and doing the things that are holy and righteous. So I think that maybe I've said enough about that to make the question clear, but there's a lot of customs that they have that if you learn them, they actually are good.
Yeah.
I do, let me put a plug in right here. If you really want to know the customs, you have to learn the language.
All right.
If you're going to go work in a French-speaking country, at least learn French.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're going to be in Chile, learn Spanish.
Sure.
If you're going to be in Madagascar, si mai chimitin Malagasy.
All right. You know, and we have to even be careful here in the States that we don't allow certain customs to creep its way into the church. Paul would say in 1 Corinthians 11, you know, if any man seem to be contentious, he used the word, we have no such custom.
Right.
And so we have to understand that even here, we deal with those things. So let's talk about Chile. Is there a custom or something along those lines that you've been able to respect? And if so, what would that be?
I enjoy traveling in different areas and different countries. Obviously, customs vary greatly. Some of our customs that you would notice if you came to church with us in Chile, number one, you would notice that they do not lay their Bible on the floor. That is considered very disrespectful. Here in the U.S., it's, you know, a lot of places not thought about, but in Chile it would be very disrespectful. And one time we had a minister come down, and I forget what it was in his sermon, and he was talking about that it's the living Word of God. It's not the actual book itself. And he was English speaking, and he literally put the Bible on the floor and stood on it while he was preaching.
Oh my.
He lost everybody. That was the end.
Yeah.
So you do have to be very conscious of those things, and whether they're right or not. So, you know, some people might argue. Another custom is if you come to Chile and it is not being forward at all. It's not. You know, they don't mean anything by it. It's just kind. Chilean custom is that if you meet someone who you know, or even someone who you don't know, even out on the street, if someone would be with me and I would introduce them to a friend, women will hug each other and touch cheeks and kiss the air. A man, you would shake the woman's hand, touch cheeks and kiss the air. We do that in church also. They think nothing of it. A lot of people, when they come down from North America, really get freaked out about that. Some of the young people think, hey, we'll come and institute that back in the U.S. But that's just part of their custom. They're very warm people. When a minister comes to the pulpit, the pastor, if he would call me up to preach in the pulpit, he would wait for me, hand me the microphone, shake my hand, hug me, and then shake my hand again. 2 handshakes.
Oh, wow.
And so when we come back to the States, we're used to that. And if we shake somebody's hand, give them a hug, and then we stick our hand out again, and they walk away. So you just kind of get used to it. But it's very interesting.
Yeah, that's great.
I think you forgot to tell the young people not to listen to that last
we have no such custom here.
That's in Chile.
You know, Brother Richardson, is that what the Apostle Paul was talking about when he said he was
greet one another with a holy kiss?
Well, no, I wasn't going there, but he said, I've become all things to all people. Was he referring to customs there, you think?
I think he was.
Yeah.
I think he was saying your customs can be so offensive that people don't hear your message.
My.
And we in America need to learn this because our culture is becoming very diverse.
Yes.
We have, if you notice our congregation, we don't have many from other races that are part of our congregation, and part of that has to deal with culture.
Yes, sir.
I don't think it's that we don't like different people. Color doesn't matter to us.
Right.
I think it's just culturally we have not been as adaptive as we should have been
Yes, sir.
to allow different customs to be represented in our midst. And that mega church that's on its way
Yes, sir.
is going to have to learn that.
That's right. That's right. Well, the gentleman that was preaching Friday night, we kind of got tickled because, he's talking about being from a town of just, a few dozen people. And yeah, dozen. And he talked about being the only white guy being dropped in the middle of Memphis. And I'll just tell you, as pastor of this assembly, if we're going to grow to the number that God's told us that we're going to be in, we're going to have to reach the African American people in this city.
Hispanics.
Hispanics. Our school system right now is over 70% African American. And in the city, this is the first time I've seen this number, but it is pushing close to 70% now. Used to, the excuse was, well, all the Caucasians are sending their kids to the county schools. But now they're really living here. It's changed. The demographics have changed. And so that's one of the reasons why I am trying my hardest to stay as involved as I am with the school system, because we need to get an inroad into that community. And so I do believe what Brother Richardson is telling us. We have to learn their culture and know what is cultural and what is biblical, and know, where those lines can't cross. Let's go to Brother Well. Let's go to a little easier question. Where does the name Chile come from? Or you say Chile. I've been pronouncing it wrong all weekend long. Is it the plant or something else? That's what the question was.
In Mexico, they have chili peppers.
Yeah.
We don't call it chili peppers in Chile. We call it ají. So it's a different variant of Spanish. There's a lot of question about where the name Chile actually comes from.
Okay.
Nobody has a really good definition. The best I've heard, and what most people think, is that in one of the original Indian dialects, it means a place where the land ends.
Okay.
So that is probably the best
I
that I could come up with on that.
Brother Richardson, let's go back years now to the first time you ever preached the gospel. People have asked this question. What was it like? Do you remember anything that stands out in your mind about the first time preaching?
You're talking about there.
But they just said first time preaching, so I guess it would even be here.
First time I preached, I think I was 13 years old.
All right.
I was preaching in a service, and I was so nervous. I thought I had an hour's worth of notes. It lasted 5 minutes. Sometimes my wife, I think, wishes I could go back to that. But when I preached, I noticed it was hard to get everybody's attention. But the one thing that stood out to me,
Yes, sir.
when I got through, my dad complimented me and said, "Jerry, you did a good job. I've never thought about that scripture that way."
Oh.
And I thought, well, what did he mean? Did I miss the point totally? But if he meant that, it didn't come across that way. And that was the beginning of ministry. As I went overseas, I began preaching almost every week, 14, 15 years old.
Oh.
I traveled places my father never saw. We were in the Philippine Islands as missionaries, and went to Bible school, did all of those things while still in the Philippines, and God blessed, and I'm still preaching.
Yes, sir.
So maybe that 5-minute sermon wasn't all that bad.
Yeah. Brother Well, what about you?
I was 14 years old. My parents were missionaries in Venezuela at that time, and they asked me to come and preach the youth service in one of the churches, the main headquarters church in the city where we lived. And they do things different in Venezuela. The men sit on one side and the women sit on another side. And I was nervous because it was my first time to preach. And to make matters worse, I think it was either the previous week or 2 weeks before, the church was in kind of a bad area of town. And they were in music practice and had all the singers there and all the musicians there. and someone came in at gunpoint and laid them all out in the floor and robbed everybody. And so I was, a little worried about that. And then when they turned the pulpit to me and I was trying to preach, and, very similar to what Brother Richardson was saying, having a very hard time and trying to feel my way through that. In the door walked a gentleman who was a little inebriated. And he walked back there and began to stagger around, and then he walked up to the front and stood right in front of the pulpit and crossed himself. And the ushers came up and grabbed him and took him to the back. And then he got away from the ushers and he went and sat on the ladies' side. And he started scooting over, and the ushers would come back and get him. And I was trying to preach. It was hard enough, and we had that all going on. And so that continued on. And I think it seemed like it was 5 hours, but I think it was probably about 5 minutes also. And that was quite the initiation. But the Lord helped me through it, and here we are today with the grace of God.
Yes, sir. I think most anybody that preached their first sermon, they thought they had plenty of material and then found out quickly elsewise. My dad always made us, as young ministers in the church, we always had to go back and listen to the cassette tape. That's how long ago that was. Go back and listen to the cassette tape. Then when we started recording and to VHS and all of that, he would make you go back and watch it. And his big thing was he had a radio broadcast for years, and he wanted you to go back and count how many and, uhs, buts that you put in there. And he said, that's distracting to the person. And he was trying to help you be a better speaker. And so that's one of the things that stands out to me in those early years. Quicker answer, and I'll come back to you, and I'll also ask from your missionary days, around how many churches do you visit annually when you're overseas?
Oh, I don't know right offhand. We visit every week. We visit in different churches, midweek and on the weekend. A lot of times it's difficult for us to get two services on Sunday because many of our churches only have one service on Sunday, and then we travel. Sometimes we'll get up and travel 2-3 hours to be in service, and then if we're close enough to drive back home. But it's at least every week it's different churches. So,
and some missionaries can't do that because they're pastoring churches. Right. But you're fortunate to where you don't have to pastor a church, that you're able to work the whole mission. What was it for you in your final years there in Madagascar?
I was the pastor of the headquarters church. Now that doesn't really relate because I didn't do the pastor's work. I just had people that worked with me that did it. That church had a membership of somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 people. But I usually tried to make sure that I preached there at least once a month. The rest of the time, I could be anywhere. There were a lot of conferences. As the work in Madagascar grew, we had at that time 6 regions. We had 3 or 4 districts in every one of those, and then we had sections in that.
Yeah.
And so there's always a conference of some kind, and they always thought that the missionary needed to be there. So we spent a lot of time traveling to those as well. But I would say that generally speaking, we were somewhat like you, except that we did try to make sure that at least one Sunday a month we were at the headquarters church.
Fantastic. One more time, would you thank these gentlemen for being with us this weekend? Very good. Thank you, guys.